Good evening, boys and girls, and welcome to our STEAM night. We're doing something a little bit different tonight. I'm going to read you guys a book, and then we're going to do a craft, a little science-based craft about it. So the book we're going to read is called Storms. It's that part of the year in North Carolina where it seems like almost every other day we're getting some sort of storm or thunderstorm. So I figured this was a good book to choose. So it's written by Ted O'Hare. Here we have our table of contents that tells us all the chapters and parts in our book, and we'll go ahead and we'll start reading. Sometimes the weather is not sunny. Clouds cover the skies. These days may bring rain and even storms. Stormy weather brings precipitation, usually rain or snow falling from the sky, and it may bring strong winds. Storms may cause damage to buildings, roads, and crops. Storms may knock down power lines. Storms may injure and even kill people. Rainstorms. Some people call them trash movers or gully washers. Mostly they're called rainstorms. They can be dangerous when they cause flooding. Flooding happens when the ground cannot soak up the rain fast enough. This might happen when the ground is very dry. Flooding also happens when streams or rivers are already full of water. They overflow their banks because the rain has no place to go. Thunderstorms. Thunderstorms are loud storms with wind, lightning, and rain. A thunderstorm happens in steps. First, the sun heats the ground, forcing warm, wet air to rise. Then the warm air meets the cooler, drier air. Finally, thunderclouds form. These thunderclouds can produce heavy rain, and sometimes the rain in the cloud moves upwards into cooler air. Then the raindrops form balls of ice called hail. Thunder and lightning. Every thunderstorm contains electricity called lightning. Some thunderstorms contain a great deal of lightning. Bolts of lightning may travel between clouds or inside clouds, or they may travel between a cloud and the ground. When lightning strikes the ground, there can be great danger. Heat produced by lightning makes the air around it very hot. This heated air explodes outward, creating thunder. Thunder may be loud and frightening, but it is not dangerous. Here we have pictures of the winds and the clouds, and here's a picture of a big tropical storm, almost a hurricane, from up in space. Tornadoes. A tornado is a powerful and swirling windstorm. A tornado can develop when winds that move up in a thunderstorm begin to swirl. The winds make a black cloud shaped like a funnel. As it rushes through the air, a tornado spins like a top. The tail of a tornado may touch the ground. When it does, the tail destroys almost everything that lies in its narrow path. Hurricanes. A hurricane is a large storm that begins over the ocean. It is a dangerous storm with high winds and a lot of rain. The hurricane grows in a round shape with a hole in the center. The center is known as the eye of the hurricane. A hurricane's winds range from 74 miles per hour to well over 100 miles. When a hurricane's winds reach the land, the winds may die down. However, a hurricane's winds can do great damage when they hit land. Blizzards. A blizzard is a snowstorm with strong winds. A true blizzard has winds blowing more than 32 miles per hour. Along with heavy blowing snow, a blizzard may bring very cold temperatures. It may be difficult to walk, drive during a blizzard. Blowing snow hides almost everything in sight. This condition is known as a whiteout. Icy storms. Hailstorms take place in the summer when pieces of ice hit the ground. Hail is a mix of ice and snow. Hailstones may be as large as baseballs or as small as peas. The largest piece of hail recorded in the United States measured almost 6 inches across. Sleet, which falls during cold weather, is a kind of ice. Freezing rain happens during the winter. It occurs when the ground is much cooler than the air. Falling rain turns to ice as it touches the ground. Predicting storms. Weather often changes quickly. This makes it hard to forecast or predict how the weather will change. Scientists who study weather are known as meteorologists. It is important for these scientists to try to know about storms that may be coming. Knowing when and where storms may hit can save lives and cut down on damage. The National Weather Service tells us what it knows about the chances of dangerous weather. People there use satellite, radar, and computers to help protect us from the storm. Oh, and we got a cool part of this book right here called a glossary, and it picks out words that people may not know and gives you the definitions so that you can find out while you read it. And oh, in the back, we've got an index, which gives us the page numbers of specific sections we can go to. But that is the end of the book, and I'll maybe one day talk about the parts of a book another time, but for today, we are going to do a little bit of a science experiment. We're going to make a thunder tube. Now, for our thunder tube, we're gonna need a couple of things. We're gonna need a paper tube. This can be from paper towels, wrapping paper, or something like that, but it needs to be about this size, which is about a foot. We're going to need some packing tape. We're going to need some scissors, just in case we have to cut the packing tape. We're going to need some markers to decorate our thunder tube. And the most important piece is going to be a spiral bound notebook. And a lot of people, I'm guessing, about the notebook, but we just need one particular piece from the notebook, and it's probably not what you guys are thinking. So I'm going to go ahead and we'll switch over our view so I can show you how to put this together. All right, guys, we're ready to make our thunder tube. We have our tube, we have our tape, we have our scissors, we have our markers, and over here we've got our spiral bound notebook. Again, we're going to use a specific piece of this notebook, and we'll have to take this apart in just a second to show you. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your tape and you're going to tape one end of your tube. Wrap a couple of pieces across the open end like you would do a drum. And if you can hear it, it sounds like a drum when you thump it. I went ahead and did this because this type of tape sometimes has a bad habit of rolling up on itself, and then you have to get the scissors to cut and get it to work again. So get your tape, get your end covered. At this point, you guys want to take your markers in whatever colors you want to, and you can decorate your tube. I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then I'll let you guys see what it looks like. Alright, so for my decoration, I used some markers and I just drew some outlines of some blue and gray clouds. And then I tried to draw some lightning bolts on it, but the yellow marker didn't work too well. So I used some orange. So it's pretty simple decoration. So what we need to do now is we're going to put these aside, and we're going to take a look at our notebook. Now, our notebook, we're not going to actually use the paper or the cover or the backing. What we need is this coil right here, because it is a spring. And this is going to be a little tricky, because what we need to do is get it away from the rest of the notebook. And this is where you may need to get your mom and dad to give you a hand. There's two ways we can do this. We can tear out all the paper sheet by sheet, but this is 70 pages and it will take forever. The other thing we can do is if we play around with one end right here, we can bend it so that it comes undone And again, this is where you want to get mom and dad to help you, because it could be kind of tricky to get this bent out. And you may need to get a pair of pliers for this, because this is a little bit harder than I thought it was going to be. So I'm going to take a little bit of time to get me some pliers, bend this out, and then I'll show you what the coil looks like when we take it all the way out of the notebook. Alright, so guys, what I did is I took this pair of needle nose pliers and I bent each end of the spring, the coil on the notebook, so that this one would be loose and that this one would go through the holes. And then you can just spin it with your fingers. And voila, there you have, all by itself, the coil from your spiral bound notebook. Alright, so here we have our spring, our coil taken out of our notebook all by itself. So what we're going to do now is we need to hang it out of the taped end of our thunder tube. So here's where I ended up running into some trouble, is that we need to poke a hole in the middle of this little drum thing we've made. Now the problem is that sometimes the tape, if you put too many layers on it, it gets a little too thick. So you end up needing to use something like a thumbtack to poke the hole. And that is what I've done with this one this time. So I'm going to take my thumbtack, I'm going to poke a hole to make it big. Then I'm going to take my coil and I'm going to fighten me a little bit here. I'm going to put it into the hole and we want to wiggle it and rotate it so a little bit so that it's standing there. So you have something that looks like this. All right, so when you're done getting your spring attached, your thunder tube should look like this, with the tube right here and the spring hanging out of the bottom. When you pick it up, if you notice as I drag it across the table, you get kind of an echo noise. And it's going to be a little hard to show on camera, but when you wiggle it or take something and drag it across the spring, you'll get an echo and a little bit of a thundering noise. So I encourage you guys to take this home and play with it. This is the first one of these that I made, so there's probably some things that I can improve on it, and with practice I can probably make a better one. So if you guys have, some of this materials at home, try and make one, see what sort of noise you can make with it, and I'm gonna maybe try and make some of these once we get back into normal, and try some different size tubes and some different size springs, see what sort of noises we can make, and maybe we'll do a program and we'll have ourselves maybe a thunder tube band or something like that. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed it and have fun making your thunder tubes at home. Be sure with the notebook, I don't think I said this, be sure with the notebook that you get your parents' permission before you take one apart, because you definitely don't want to do it to one that's being used for something important in the house. So hope you guys had fun, and we will see you next time.